I don't believe I've ever talked about the Muppets before on this channel, but like most people of my generation, I have a fair amount of nostalgia for the Muppets. So I am what is known as a Zennial, which is somebody who's born right between Generation X and the Millennials, late 70s, early 80s. And I think for people of my generation, the Muppets has a special place in their childhood memories because the Muppets, the original TV show, was on the air from 1976 to 1981. So it's just as people of my generation were beginning to become aware of the world. You know, the first couple of years you're in diapers, you don't know anything about the culture, you don't remember anything. But just when we're beginning to be able to be cognizant of what's going on and to be able to watch TV and have it make an impression on us, that was the tail end of the Muppet Show being on TV. So, and then, if memory serves, once it went off TV, it was off TV. I don't know if it was in reruns for a couple of years after 1981, but my memory of most of the 80s was the Muppets were not on TV. I mean, the Muppet Babies were on TV. There were a few Muppet movies still coming out, but the Muppet TV show was not on TV. Of course, let me know what your memories are. Was it on TV when you were growing up in your city or your neck of the woods? But I think because it wasn't actually on TV, and because this was before the era of the internet where you could just go on YouTube and watch anything, these memories we had of the TV show grew larger and larger in our imagination. Because the Muppets, I think, for its time, was cutting edge humor for kids' TV, at least. I mean, things like Pigs in Space or Dr. Bob's General Hospital, those kind of sketch comedy shows for kids. I don't remember a lot of other shows doing it, and if other shows were doing that, then they. I don't remember them. Maybe they haven't been remembered as well as the Muppets. So throughout a lot of my childhood, when I would look back, when I would remember back and try and remember the Muppets, I would think to myself, was that real? Was there really a kid show on TV that was really that crazy and zany and had so much subversive humor in it? And you know, sometimes dark humor, sketches would end with a character getting exploded or something like that. And then I remember sometime in the mid-90s, when I was in middle school, I became alerted to the fact that the Muppets was actually being rerun on cable. I think in the 90s it was either TNT or TBS, one of the Turner cable stations, was replaying the Muppets. And so it was on like at 9 o'clock on a weekday morning or something like that. But during summer vacation, I started watching the Muppets again and found that it was not nearly as great as I remembered it. I mean, I guess memories are bound to disappoint. But the thing is, I think when you remember the Muppets, you remember all the really great sketches. Again, the Pigs in Space, the Dr. Bob one, the Mana Mana song. You remember all the best stuff, but you forget that it could be very conventional at times. It could be very sappy. It could be very sentimentality. Is that an adjective? They would have on these guests who would just sing these very slow and saccharine sweet songs to the Muppets, and where the Muppets are rocking back and forth. There'd be like a lot of very cliched type life lessons. I mean, it was a kid show after all, and it was subversive to a degree, but not nearly as much as we remember it. Now, that could just be my memory, but I've got reason to think that for at least some people my age, this was their experience of the Muppets. I remember when I was in college in the late 90s, we were watching TV with my roommates, and an ad came on for, you could buy the DVD set of the Muppets, like, you know, the complete Muppets on DVD, the box set. And, you know, we were college students, and box sets of DVDs were expensive back then, so this was a lot of money to us. But we had one roommate who was a little bit more flush with cash than the rest of us. His parents gave him a generous monthly allowance for expensives. And he saw that ad, he picked up the phone, and he immediately ordered it, put through his credit card number. He was just like, you know, I've got to have that DVD set of the Muppets. So a few weeks later, it arrived in the mail. We put on the disc. I think he made it through about 15 minutes, and then he just walked out of the room. I remember it all these years later because we thought it was so funny. He spent all this money on it, thinking that he was buying something that he wasn't. His memory of the Muppets, he was just like me, I think. He remembered the show as being really zany and silly, and he was remembering all the best parts of it, and forgetting how mundane the show could be a lot of the times. And that's not without getting into the Muppet movies, which, those can really be a mixed bag, can't they? I mean, even the classics, like the Muppet movie, The Muppets Take Manhattan, The Great Muppet Caper, those had some really great moments in them, but they could also have some really boring songs and some sappy stuff. And the point being, and I realize now I'm 7 minutes into this video and I haven't started my review. But the point being, a lot of us have great moments of the Muppets, and the Muppets at their best can be really good, but the Muppets can also vary widely in quality. And that brings me to the Muppets 2011 movie, which I think had some good moments, but was also really boring in parts and had some needlessly sappy and saccharine parts. And I'm inclined to criticize it for that, but then I also think back and I think, well, all the rest of the Muppet stuff was like that as well. So maybe it gets a pass. I don't know. Anyways, the Muppets 2011. This was, if you will remember, heavily marketed toward nostalgia. So I guess people of my generation. And the opening scene of the movie is establishing the main characters, the point of view characters, are fans of the Muppets who grew up watching it on TV. In this movie, they're going with the idea that the Muppets have been disbanded since the original TV show. And I don't remember, maybe a couple of the movies are still included in the continuity of this movie. A couple of the first movies, like the Muppets movie and the Muppets Take Manhattan. But all of the stuff that the Muppets did in the late 80s and 90s seems to be disregarded. So the Jim Henson Hour seems to be out of continuity. The various movies that the Muppets did in the 90s, as well as the revival Muppets TV show that came up in the late 90s, The Muppets Tonight. That one's out of continuity. So as somebody who watched a fair amount of that content, not all of it, but I watched the Jim Henson Hour, I watched The Muppets Tonight, I felt a little bit, I don't know what the word is, disappointed that stuff was just forgotten because, I had gone through the trouble of watching it. But one can't obsess too much about continuity with the Muppets, right? It's not that kind of a franchise. So the movie made a big deal about how the Muppets were finally back after so long being away. to my mind, they hadn't been gone that long. I think the last theatrical movie was just 1999. Their last TV show was also in the late 90s. I mean, I guess 11 or 12 years is kind of long for a kids franchise. I guess I've reached a stage of life where 10 years just seems like yesterday. But anyways, the movie is making, and the marketing surrounding the movie was making a big deal about how the Muppets were finally back. There were some things I liked about the movie. I thought the meta humor was cute, and I realized that this is not the first Muppets movie to do meta humor. But I thought it was done well. When they're doing a cliched plot point, like the roundup montage, they're commenting on how cliched it is. At one point, one of the characters points out that the speech he's given must be important to the plot later on, because otherwise it would just be, there would have been no point in including it in the movie. So that kind of stuff got a chuckle out of me. I also really liked the sketch show at the end. The one where Jack Black is forced into participating into the sketch show with the Muppets. I thought that was really funny. My only complaint is that it was too short. So I thought that was the best part of the movie. It should have been longer, in my opinion. So that was all to the positive. Things I wasn't so wild about in this movie was just all the sap and sentimentality and the overwrought emotions. I can do without that. I don't come to a Muppets movie to get overly emotional. But maybe that's just me. I mean, it's obvious that the filmmakers were banking on some sort of nostalgia that maybe manifests itself in the form of sentimentality from people of my generation, and from kids. But I view the Muppets as being the most fun when it's just kind of zany fun, where we don't bog down the plot too much to focus on sap and sentimentality. I also didn't like the slower songs in this movie. I'll get to that later. Jason Segel I really like him. I really enjoyed his acting in How I Met Your Mother. I thought he was really funny in that. I didn't think he really got a chance to shine in this new Muppets movie. I mean, I was glad to see he was in it, but he didn't really have that much to do. Initially, I was inclined to blame the writers and the producers of this movie, saying, you got Jason Segel and then you completely wasted him. But then if you look around on Wikipedia, it turns out that Jason Segel actually wrote the movie. So I guess he underutilized himself. But, he pretty much just plays the straight man in this movie against the Muppets. I thought his character was not very interesting. Also, the new Muppet that they introduced, Walter, I thought he was very bland and forgettable. They made such a big deal about how he's the new Muppet. And again, thinking back to the various Muppet media over the prior decades, I was thinking, well, there have been a lot of new Muppets over the years. There was Clifford from the Muppets Tonight. He was supposed to be the big new Muppet then. And a lot of these new Muppets that they make a big deal out of initially just get forgotten. And I suspect that's what's going to happen to Walter. We'll see. Well, I mean, here it is, 2024, and I'm still talking about him, huh? So I guess, well, maybe that's a column in the Point Walter column. I don't know. And then Jason Segel's girlfriend in this movie. She was just extra baggage for the movie as far as I was concerned. She contributed nothing to the plot, contributed nothing comedically as far as I could tell. She was just there to have this sappy subplot about a needy girlfriend who gets upset because Jason Segel doesn't pay enough attention to her. So I just thought it was unnecessary sap and soap opera drama soap opera is the wrong word. Just unnecessary sap and pointless side drama in the movie. I didn't care for that at all. Now, the songs. I guess every Muppet movie has to have songs in it, right? Every kids movie has to have songs in it. How do you guys feel about songs in kids movies? Or how did you feel about songs in kid movies when you were a kid? I've got 2 young children now, and I do notice how fascinated they are by music. So, if you put on anything on YouTube, they want to watch a song. I think, okay, they really like watching this story or they'll watch this cartoon, but at the young age, they just really like songs. So I guess maybe I do have a better appreciation now than I used to for how young kids really like songs. I have my memories as a kid, and I guess maybe being a kid here, meaning like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, of really being bored whenever a kid's movie would stop for a song. Now, it depends on the song, of course. If it's an upbeat song, that's all right. But if it's a slow song, I just hated it. Which, is that just me? Am I atypical, or is that how most kids are? And if that's how most kids are, I guess it raises the question of who are these songs for and why are they in the movie? So, to the Muppet movie. Life's a Happy Song, which was the opening number. I really liked that one. That was a cheerful, upbeat song. I found it was also a real earworm. After I watched that movie once, the song is playing in my head for the next couple days. And if you haven't seen it, go check it out on YouTube. It's worth a listen to. It may well be sticking in your head for a couple days, but it's a nice, happy, cheerful, upbeat song. It was fun. I liked it. But that Am I a Man or a Muppet song, which is in, I guess, maybe near the end of the second act. I did not like that one at all. I thought it was just boring. It slowed the movie way down at a point where the movie shouldn't have been slowing down that much. I thought it just killed the momentum of the movie. But, again, this could be just me. The song was nominated for and won all sorts of awards. So take my opinion with a grain of salt. But I didn't care for that song. And then there are all the cameos in the movie. Cameos at this point is another Muppet tradition. I might be tempted to complain about all the pointless cameos in this movie, especially from a number of TV actors I didn't even recognize. Of course, by the time this movie came out, I had been out of the country for several years, so I hadn't been keeping up with a lot of TV. But what are you going to do, huh? I think pointless cameos are a well-established part of Muppet movie tradition, for better or for worse at this point. It is a little bit silly maybe that for a kids movie they have all these cameos from famous actors that kids aren't even going to recognize, but that's their parents will recognize them. So I guess that's the strategy with these kids movies. Something's aimed at the kid and something's aimed at the parent, and it's just part of the Muppets tradition at this point. So that's all I have to say about this movie. Let me know what your opinions are in the comments, and I will see you next time.